You were last up in Manchester doing a public event in March. So could you fill us in on what you've been doing since then, what you've learned and what successes and failures the Green Party has had?
Okay, well I think since March I've been doing lots more travelling the country as I was doing in the previous 6 months. And one of the things that I've been doing is visiting a lot of places and seeing just how tough things are getting. Whether it's food banks everywhere from Brighton up to Sheffield and beyond, it's around the country seeing really how poverty is striking more and more. I've been to lots of bedroom tax protests. I've been to lots of places around the country and finding that people who are working are increasingly struggling to get by. And also, I've been dealing with lots of other issues as well. Actually on Saturday night, I was out with the Badger Protection Patrols down in Somerset, really looking at what it's like on the ground in terms of an absolutely crazy government policy that makes no environmental or economic sense. So really what I'm seeing is how much government is failing to work, failing to deliver for the people of Britain all around the country.
And challenges that the Green Party has had, or successes or failures?
I think we've seen over the past 6 months, as always with these things, we've had some really good media coverage, and I'm quite pleased that actually the Express newspaper has suddenly started to notice our existence, which is something of a surprise. But we do struggle to get our message heard, and that's very frustrating, and in a way it's very surprising, because if you look at a whole range of our policies, whether it's wishing to renationalise the railways, bringing the railways back into public hands, which Caroline Lucas has a private member's bill now before Westminster, we know that's got something like 75% public support. When I say that the minimum wage should be made a living wage, that if you work full-time you should earn enough money to live on, that also has 75% public support. Yet somehow when I say these things to journalists, this seems to be regarded as a radical position, as something that's way out there on the fringe. And it's very interesting, there was a YouGov poll done for the Fabian Society a week or so back that said that 67% of British people believe that we absolutely must transform our economy, that we have to change the direction we're on. And yet we've just been through party conference season where both Labour and Tory have offered a few sops that might improve people's living standard over a brief period of time. But the whole idea that we need to reshape the economy away from multinationals, away from privatisation, particularly away from privatising our NHS, away from globalisation, and need to bring food production and manufacturing back to Britain, there's just not a sign of that happening. So the British people really get that we absolutely need a change in political and economic direction, but our politics just isn't.
Great, that's great. I'm just going to that question on getting the message across. Specifically on the fifth assessment report of the IPCC, it seemed to me to sink without trace within a day. And I'm wondering what you think the Green movement generally, both the party and the wider movement, could do to keep climate change on the agenda when everyone seems to think that it's either not happening or yesterday's news or something too distant to worry about.
Well, I think we come back to where the public view on this, because this hasn't actually sunk without trace among the public. The most recent survey out showed that 72% of the public entirely believe that man-made human climate change is a huge problem. And so the fact is, actually, we may have, sadly, Environment Secretary Owen Paterson who really doesn't get it. We may have a Prime Minister who doesn't get it, and a Labour Party that just threw a mention of climate change out as a sop. But the public do get this, and the reality is the nature of our politics is going to break wide open, I believe, in the next shortish to medium term. Politics so clearly isn't delivering for people. And what we're also going to see on climate change is, we saw, I think, some very disturbing coverage, particularly from the BBC, of the IPCC report. And the fact is, what this report should be doing is saying that the scientific argument is now over. There is no question about the basics of human-caused climate change. What we have to do now is debate the policy and political responses to it. And I think that message is going to get through very loud and clear to the BBC, get through to other media outlets. Maybe not the Daily Mail or the Telegraph, but other more reasonable media outlets are going to get that message and understand that we absolutely must deal and change our ways. And the other side of this is there are very, very powerful arguments, and they're arguments not just being put by the Green Movement, but by the CBI, by the wind industry, by the solar industry, that says there's lots of good jobs here to be had, there's a reliable source of affordable energy going into the future, which is not the case of gas, which is the expensive option for our energy future. And also, if we get serious about energy conservation, particularly insulating homes, then what we're going to see is creation of jobs, cutting of carbon emissions, and tackling fuel poverty. Three positives. There is no answer to that argument, and we're going to have to eventually win that argument. I'm up here tonight very excitedly to launch the MMU Young Greens, a society that hasn't existed before, and that reflects the growth of young Greens up and down the country, and that's really exciting. What I'm also here to do is to talk about the European election campaign, and last time, of course, we, by a very tiny margin, just missed out on electing Peter Craney as our first MEP in the Northwest. Now, this time, we've actually just had a poll out in the last month that put the Greens across the country on 12% in the European poll. I can't resist mentioning that the Lib Dems were on 10%. But that 12%, if it was delivered next May, would allow us to treble our number of MEPs in Europe. And what the North West could do by sending Peter Craney to Brussels is greatly strengthen the British Green voice in Brussels. The Green group in the European Parliament is the fourth largest group. They're a very significant voice, and we've already got Keith Taylor and Jean Lambert there who are doing a great job. But if we treble our number of MEPs, we'll be able to cover many more issues in detail, be across many more issues, putting the English Green voice there. And as our election slogan for the European campaign is going to say, Europe needs green ideas, and it needs a lot more people there to represent them.